So it didn't change. Okay, sorry guys, we're sideways for a minute. That's annoying. I gotta change this up. Hold on.
I'm gonna stop this one.
Don't stop it.
No, because I want to do an intro. You're just flying with it.
I'm just flying with it, yeah. This is live. It's live for a reason. Today, no artificial sweeteners, somebody says. Pilar says no artificial sweeteners. All right.
Day one.
Okay, let's try this again. Apparently, I can't go live on my phone landscape. It's got to be vertical. So I got to figure out how to change that because that seems kind of silly.
Oh, whoa, that's crazy. Where's the darker one?
And now it's all weird too. Like what's
going on?
I don't know. Let's do this. Let's turn that around. Turn that around. No. What is that? Highlights?
Okay.
No. All right. Well, hey, can everybody hear us okay? What's going on, everybody?
Oh, I should ask that. Okay, I'm gonna go live again.
Yeah, ask if people can hear you too. We got new mics for Nat, so sorry we're a little bit late. You can hear us. Thanks, Juliana.
We are live on Instagram too. What up, fam? Welcome to Sunday Coffee Chat. Coach Bronson and Coach Nat.
That's a Summer Speaks N=1 experience.
N=1.
Like it.
Oh, like experience. Cool.
Experience. The
Is that the name? Is that the whole name
That's
of
the whole name of it, yeah.
Cool. Hey, fam on Instagram. Please let me know if you can hear me. I'm testing a new mic because our AC is really loud.
Yeah, our AC got loud.
And I could hear it on the replay last time. So come on in. So what are we talking about today, babe?
I don't know. It was your idea today.
Okay.
I'm just here for the ride today. I'm here for the ride today, guys. This is all her.
So we titled it.
What did we title it? Secrets to Carnivore
The
Success.
Secret to Carnivore Success.
Something like that, yep.
And the truth is, what we're going to talk about is the secret or the key to your success in anything.
Right.
Because pretty much the key to success in one thing will apply to other things. Especially what we talk about most of the time, because it's mostly more of a mindset over specific
things.
Practical hacks and tips.
Right, it's how we're thinking about things. Because recently, well, this isn't even recently. This is stuff that we get consistently over the years as we've coached. But recently, we're both...
They can't hear me.
Oh, they can't hear you?
I had a feeling, because I didn't test it first. Maybe I just undo this one this time. It's not on.
It's not.
Ha! It's not on.
Well, it's on, but it's not connected for whatever reason.
All right, forget it.
Does that mean mine's not on too?
Yours for mine probably is not on.
No, that's mine.
Oh, that's yours. They can hear you on YouTube. They can hear us on YouTube.
You guys can...
Yours is fine. Mine's not. So I'm just gonna disconnect it.
Because mine's blinking. You know what? I think you know what it is. I think they're competing with each other.
Okay. I'm just gonna get rid of it for now. All right, fam. Can you hear me on Can you hear us on Instagram now? Thank you, Wealth of Health. Appreciate you. Kelly says still no sound. Can you hear us? Oh yes, now. Yay. Okay.
Okay, so that's on hers. This is on. See, this is supposedly yours. Now I'm confused. Why mine's blinking? Can you guys hear me okay on YouTube?
Oh, let us know on YouTube because
this is
my Instagram. They can hear me because it's just through the phone now.
Right.
But what about
I'm not sure which one's
YouTube?
Which. We're having a technical issues today.
All right, Carnivore in the middle of the forest says hum.
All right, we're gonna do that. We're gonna turn this one off.
Okay, Lisa and Juliana can hear us both fine on YouTube.
Okay, YouTube is good. All right, so that's good.
All right. Okay, now that things are working, before we dive into the topic, I have a question from Pilar about when I'm competing in the FMG.
Okay.
So today there is a FMG Pro-Am in Dallas, Texas. For those who have no idea what FMG means, it stands for Muscle Glamour Fitness.
Fashion, fitness, muscle, fashion. It's not fashion.
Glamour. No.
Fitness, muscle, glamour.
Fitness, muscle, glamour. It is a brand new bodybuilding federation that is very similar to the federation that I left in terms of glamour, the glamorous side of it. It's couture styles, everything to the max.
Bodybuilding
Absolutely.
and fashion altogether.
Think bougie and fabulous meets fitness and muscle, which is exactly my aesthetic. So, Juliana says,
Glamazon.
effing muscle glamazon. So Fitness Muscle Glamour, they are based out of Australia. They've been doing shows for years under the WBFF brand, and they have split off and created their own federation. And many of us from the WBFF have moved over to the FMG, and they have basically given us pro status if we were already pros with the WBFF. So I made that announcement on my Instagram a few weeks ago, maybe, about that change, and that is my new federation. So today in Dallas is the very first US show that they are doing ever as a new federation. The first show was, I believe, Gold Coast of Australia earlier this year. They'll be in London later this year. They'll be doing Dubai. LA is the next US show in September, and then I will be competing in Mexico, the Cancun show in November. That is the plan. So I am 18 weeks out.
Do I have that in my calendar?
You need to. I'll make sure that you are on the invite.
Okay.
I have 18 weeks to be on stage, so I have just begun my prep. This past week was my baselining week. And if you haven't seen my latest on Instagram at the Keto Bikini Pro, I just announced my prep and how I will be doing this prep differently this year.
And that leads into what we're talking about.
And that is what inspired the topic today, which is all about essentially how do you plan for success when you are doing something new or different.
Right. So this is where I was going before we had the mic issue.
Yeah.
Is we get the question all the time, and it's something that is an ongoing thing because we all deal with it. I'm going to change something. I'm going to do something different. But we're so used to the patterns that we have and how we think about what we're doing now that we get stuck and our brain stops working when we have to start doing something new. So it's like, okay, wait a second. I've been doing it this way for so long, but now I want to go over here, so I have to do it this way. But I had no idea what are the thought processes or the decisions or the options that I have that go in that direction.
Yep.
And we noticed this. You noticed this particularly because you do what she does is the food shopping. So when she was at the grocery store the other day, and so she's starting a new way of doing a cut, some way that she's never tried before.
Yep.
And I'm going from being in maintenance for, gosh, what, 2 years, almost 2 years? I've been kind of just chilling for a while. I've been in maintenance for a while, and I'm kind of saying, okay, I've been in maintenance for long enough. I need to get back focused and start doing some things. So I'm kind of going into a more of a leaning out, not necessarily a cut, but I'm trying to lean out a little bit and focus more on some performance goals that I've set. So I'm getting back into doing things a different way, and the way that I'm doing it is different as well. And we'll talk about what those differences are. But it's causing us to kind of go, wait, how does this work again?
So
like what? Wait a minute.
What prompted this discussion was I have been reflecting a lot about this new protocol I'm trying and how I have to set myself up for success with this new protocol, or how I have to think about things different. Yeah, Juliana,
you're dating.
Nailed it. I'm dating.
She's cheating on me with another protocol.
Date protocols, marry principles.
Yep.
Right? So we're both, and really this is a change for both of us too, because I have also been in a maintenance mode for a long time. I just did a little mini cut between March and May for the fashion show I did then, and that was a cut that same way I always approach my cuts. So it was while I was changing my total food intake and activity level, I was not changing the foods I regularly eat, the shopping that I regularly do, it was just a matter of different amounts of the same foods, basically. This time I am completely shifting the macro breakdown of my foods. So it requires me to, could I do it with the same foods? Maybe. It would be difficult.
I couldn't.
I would have to.
You have to eat a keto brick every day.
I would have to add a whole bunch of fat separately from my meals and eat very small amounts of
You would be
meals.
literally eating like beef cereal. It'd be beef in a beef
I would be
bowl
eating-
swimming in fat.
And because I don't do dairy, I wouldn't be eating a stick
you
of
can do
butter.
dairy. You could do
I wouldn't
butter.
do a stick of butter, but I'd be having to eat just pure fat by itself. So I'm going from a higher protein, very high protein
Adequate
approach, adequate fat, and then just adjusting the fat, which is what I always did, was just cut the fat and keep the protein the same the whole time. Very simple way to do it. So I had foods that were my go-to foods that were high in protein, moderate on fat, so it made it very easy for me to adjust that fat macro down. This time I'm going a very different route, and yes, Blue Love, it's the Keto Savage protocol. It's Robert Sykes protocol, which starts out incredibly high fat. We're talking 80-20 carnivore, basically. Negligible carbs and 80% fat to start. And then you start slowly bringing the protein up and the fat down, and you only ever get to about 1-to-1, and then you start bringing them both down at the end of the cut. So, very, very different way of doing things.
Have fun with that.
So for a lot of you, honestly, I think this resonates because
Yeah.
many of you have tried super high fat keto carnivore. A lot of the people who come to us are coming from that high fat,
Yep.
and they didn't get the results they wanted. And then we switch them to a higher protein, lower fat, adequate fat approach.
Which is what I'm doing.
And it requires a major change for them.
Yeah. And on my end, so you're changing your macro distribution, which is causing you to relook at your food choices.
Yes, while also cutting overall intake.
Right. Well, but it's more the macro distribution, right? You're changing your focus, so you have to look at, instead of looking at leaner cuts of meat like you normally do, you're looking at fattier cuts, and then you're looking at different combinations of things and
additional
just
sources
changing
of fat.
how can I add fat, increase my fat, stuff like that.
Yep.
So it changes everything from what you're looking at when you're shopping,
Yep.
how you're planning your meals throughout the week, what you have to do to cook and prepare food, like everything changes. So then it's like, for a second, you're like, crap, how do I do this? Right?
And what we were talking about earlier this morning, what you said was you can't leave it to chance
Right.
and expect to have success.
Yeah.
And that's really what this topic is.
And for me, it's similar, but not kind of. So I'm doing my cut, my lean out. The only thing I'm changing, there's two things I'm changing. I am dropping, there's three things I'm changing. And I'm thinking about this because they're all connected. I am tracking now. I wasn't tracking. Okay. And because again, if you're not tracking, you're not trying. And since I'm making a change, when maintenance, do I need to track? No. But I'm trying to make a change and move in a direction, so I have to track to know where I am and where I need to, what I need to do.
And whether
to
it's
make a change.
working and if you need to adjust anything.
So I am now starting to track again. In that, I've set my goals, so I've dropped my average maintenance fat intake is about 155 to 165 grams a day. It's about my lean mass.
You know what's crazy?
What?
That's where my fat is going to be.
That's where you're
this
going
week.
up to, right? And I'm going down. So I've set my cap at 130. right now. Because I know at somewhere between 130 and 140, I'll probably lose, but I want to make sure 130 is easily done. I could probably hover at 100 if I wanted to and not have any problems at all because I focus on protein so much.
And that's usually where I sit.
Right.
At maintenance is between 100 and 120.
Right. To me, and this may sound weird to some people, to me, when I'm cutting, 130 feels like a lot of fat. Like if I really want to cut, I could easily, we saw it the other day when I was looking at my stuff, like I could easily I could be at under 100 grams of fat if I wanted to and be perfectly happy. But that's not what I'm trying to do. So 130 is my goal. So that's first thing. Tracking, second thing, setting a goal of a fat limit, not a protein limit, a fat limit at 130. And then the third thing that I'm doing, the only other change that I'm doing is I am not doing ground beef anymore. And I'm only doing, and here's why, I'll explain this one in a second.
That's a huge change for him,
I'm
y'all.
only doing hard-boiled eggs. I'm not doing eggs cooked any other way. Okay, and here's why. I've noticed in just a couple of days that I've done this, there's been major changes in how I approach my food. Okay? Number one, eating hard-boiled eggs. You don't add butter to hard-boiled eggs.
I mean, you could if you were making an egg salad.
Well, but you could add mayonnaise, but I'm not doing that, right? I'm just eating hard-boiled eggs with salt.
But when you cook your eggs, like fried, medium, over medium, do you usually use butter?
Yeah, when I scramble them, when I fry them, whatever, it's usually with butter. Or when I do scrambled eggs, sometimes I like to add Parmesan cheese, right? Or whatever. So there's a propensity,
Everybody's freaking out. What? Only hard-boiled eggs?
Yes. Here's the
But
thing.
you're not doing an egg fast.
I'm not doing an egg fast. No. I'm only, when I do eat eggs, it's only going to be hard-boiled eggs.
It's going to be hard-boiled.
I'm still, there's more to this.
And yeah, see, Blue Love says, mayo and sour cream mustard with hard-boiled eggs, LOL. That's the way you love to do the mayo.
I love
But he does not moderate the mayo when he does that. It's like all the mayo.
No. I love mayo so much. So when I do hard-boiled eggs, it's going to be hard-boiled eggs with salt. That's it. Soft. I do like medium hard, like medium hard-boiled, like medium, soft, medium soft. They're fantastic. When I do my meat from now on, it is only going to be some form of steak.
Steak only, y'all.
No ground beef. Now here's the thing. Guys, I've been carnivore for over 6 years. I have never gone I've never gone 2 meals in a row eating steak.
What? Wow.
In 6 years, I've always focused on ground beef and eggs. That's been my go-to. It's been beef and eggs. It's been that's what I do.
Simple, easy.
Simple, easy. You can cook a ton of it up. I cook a ton of ground beef up at one time. I had a
whole moment, y'all, at Costco, like, babe, we need to talk about the steak plan.
Yeah, because it ain't cheap.
It is not cheap. Talk about a whole different budget.
But here's the thing. What I've noticed in just the last couple of days, I have to set time aside and be present when I eat. Because the food that I'm eating requires my intention and my attention. Okay? When you're eating hard-boiled eggs, you can't just scoop them into your mouth. Well, you could, but still, you gotta, I mean, I'm not eating a whole egg at a time, right? I cut them in half, I put salt on them, put them on a plate and eat one at a time. But it's the intention, the attention, the time it takes. Eating 6 or 8 hard-boiled eggs, what I've noticed for me is it takes a little bit longer than just scooping a bunch of scrambled eggs in my mouth. Or sitting at a table for 3, I could eat a dozen eggs. If I had, you've seen me eat medium eggs.
I barely see you guys because it goes that fast.
I could eat a dozen over medium eggs in like 3 minutes, guys. It's ridiculous. It just goes down. I can't do that with hard-boiled eggs. When I'm eating a steak, you have to take your time. You got to cut it. You got to chew it. You got to swallow it. You got to cut another bite. There's more to the process.
A process.
Right?
Yeah.
That's one aspect. I'm noticing that I'm more present when I eat. It's taking me longer to eat. Because of that, I'm feeling more satiated after I eat. I don't eat and then it's like, okay, I'm done. And then an hour later, I'm like, oh, I think I might be full. It's like, if I wasn't where I am now with knowing that, you know, I'm hitting my macros, I'm just eating what I know I need to eat.
You have the time to allow the satiety, your stomach to recognize that
Right.
you're eating food and
But
for
if
the satiety signal to
But if I was doing what I'd done in the past with Standard American or other diets, eating as fast as I eat, it's very easy to overeat because you don't feel like you don't feel done.
Yeah.
With doing it this way, as soon as I'm done eating, like I'm done. Like I know that I'm good and I'm good for a few hours. Like I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And then the propensity again, the opportunity to add stuff to what I'm eating is not there.
Oh, that piece you talked about.
That's a huge piece of it because I would, particularly maintenance when I'm not tracking, when I'm making ground beef, yeah, I'm going to put cheese in it. Yeah, I might put tomato sauce in it. Yeah, I might put ketchup on it. Yeah, I might do this. Yeah, I might put some hot sauce or buffalo sauce on it.
Yep.
There's different things that I've done with the ground beef to just make it more entertaining, appealing, appetizing, whatever variety in the flavor. But with steak, I just make salt.
That's it.
It's good. Cook it up. And I've been doing it in the air fryer. Oh boy. Salt in the air fryer, it's fantastic.
That is usually the way that I cut.
Yeah.
This mini cut I just did, I was eating steak every day.
Right.
Most of my meals were steak. It worked beautifully.
Yeah.
And they were lean, they were pretty lean steaks. And you're doing lean steaks for the most part.
Yeah. And that's the difference for me, right? So going from, for me, it's the change of how am I preparing my food differently and what does that mean for my options? I've never really thought about, I mean, I'm a filet guy. If I'm going to eat a steak, I'm going to go get a filet. We ain't paying $45, $35 a pound for a filet for me to have 2 pounds of filet.
Freaking Wegmans, $51.
Almost $100. It'd be $100 a day. Could you imagine spending that much money
No.
a day?
But I'd like to have that to be able to
Eventually,
spend
maybe one of
on
these days.
food.
Right. But trying to find, okay, what are the options for steaks that I can enjoy that are leaner,
That are going to be palatable.
that are going to be palatable,
also affordable.
and that I don't have to worry about cutting 18 pounds of fat off of it every time I want to eat it because I'm not trying to add the
Well,
fat.
and that was the other thing. I was obviously if you buy like the whole piece of whatever that cut is, you can get it cheaper. But we're going to be cutting and butchering essentially ourselves.
Right, I'm fine
and
with
cutting
butchering
a lot
it.
off. But you cut a lot off, and then you're still left with the same amount that you would have gotten
For the
if you
price.
cut it already butchered.
Right.
So for the price, so it's tricky. Yeah, Blue Love says skirt steak. That's usually what.
That's what she
No,
does.
it's flat iron.
I thought that
Which is similar.
I think it's the same thing.
Similar.
Isn't skirt and flat iron the same thing?
I think they're a little different, but they're different cuts, but they're similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that. What did we end up getting? Top round
Top
because you don't
round.
like top sirloin.
Right.
I usually do top sirloin when I'm cutting.
Top sirloin's too tough for me.
It was too tough.
The tri-tip was pretty good. I
like
gotta be
the
honest, the
tri-tip?
tri-tip wasn't bad.
I found, and then I did the eye of round, which is very lean, but it's not it doesn't have as much connective tissue as the sirloin did. So you haven't tried it yet, but we'll be trying that. And of course, for me, I had to buy all the fatty meats. And that too, I had to
Which was
learn
so
about
funny.
the pricing, right? Learn about the pricing and what was going to be affordable as well. Which I will say the fattier cuts are more affordable in general than the leaner cut. Well, it kind of depends.
Well,
It depends on
also,
the cut.
the other change too is when you just did this last trip, what did you say? Like, it's funny how I had all the steak and you had all the ground beef, the ground meat.
Yeah, which is
Right?
definitely.
You had all the fattier ground meat.
I
and had
will
all the
do
steak.
some ground beef, but I like to mix up and do lamb, whole leg of lamb. I do a lot more different cuts of meat, steaks, whole leg of lamb, whole roasts, and then some ground beef and ground lamb. But I was buying 80-20 ground beef, which I never do, and. What else did I get? I got chuck roast, which I'll be putting in the crock pot and cooking that slow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of experimentation that we're going to be doing, and I think that's probably the key. That is we're going to talk about intent and having a plan, and that's the thought process you need to have about how to execute the change. But I think that doesn't work if you're not developing that skill of curiosity and experimentation. So for me, in this conversation, what is the secret to success on carnivore or keto or in anything? It is being curious and trying to enjoy the process of figuring out what works.
Well, and taking the
I'm
time.
having fun trying to learn these different things. And
That's
hey,
it.
what is this? How can I cook this? How do I make that? What is this other meat? You know, go to the butcher and ask questions about different things, right?
Take the time
It's a
to
learning
learn
process for
on
me.
the front end of
Yeah.
the new thing you're trying to do, right? If you go into it blind and just buying all the things you always bought, and then this happens a lot. We have clients who will be like, I didn't hit my macros. I don't know how to hit my macros with these new numbers. Well, if you're still buying all the same things you always bought, and you have all the same food in your household that you always had, especially if you're coming from standard American diet, how do you expect to do something new and different?
It's literally you can't, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same result.
It's the definition of
literally what
insanity,
it is, right?
right? Yeah. And somebody said it in here, failing to plan is planning to fail. Mm-hmm. You can't just go in and not have a plan for how you're going to do this. It's not going to, by chance, happen. You have to make it happen, right? We had a couple of other questions. We had a question about what is our air fryer. It's a Ninja, right?
It's the Ninja
And it's the
tray.
air fryer
It's
oven.
oven,
With the trays. So you can
I don't understand it. I don't understand the bucket ones. Like, that just seems odd. I love ours.
I like ours because you can do a lot of different. I mean, we could roast, we could broil,
we could roast a small duck.
Convection.
We couldn't roast a chicken.
There's a rotisserie. Yeah. So there's a lot of options, but we pretty much always use the air fryer option. So, and then Blue Love says, have you ever tried cinnamon on ground beef? That is my jam. Y'all. Okay.
Can't even imagine.
Let me tell you, I love, as a Greek
She's a Greek
woman.
She's a Greek.
Right? I love Middle Eastern spices. I love that Mediterranean.
Cinnamon.
So something you'll see a lot in Greek cooking is allspice. Allspice has a warm spices, cinnamony vibe. So I like to do allspice with my lamb, especially. Sometimes I'll do cinnamon. A lot of the time I'll add cinnamon to that. I like to do all the warm spices. With beef, I like cumin, and I'll do allspice and cinnamon. So any of those like Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, Mexican spices, all of those are amazing. But those warm spices, and then I like to put yogurt on top. Now it's really getting into that Middle Eastern flavor, that Greek flavor. So, cinnamon and yogurt, or I do coconut yogurt because I'm dairy free. Amazing on beef and lamb.
Interesting.
Ground beef and lamb in particular. I love it. And what I've been doing lately is the Egg Life sweet cinnamon wraps. It's just egg whites and cinnamon, and they use xanthan gum. So,
but you said you were going to be stopping.
I'm stopping that. I just finished my last one. I won't be buying those for a little bit. I mean, they're pure protein, so I got to cut back on any little extra protein so I can get. My goal, and this is another struggle, is one of the reasons why I don't like a high fat approach, where you have to cut your protein low, is because it's very difficult with mostly fat and low protein to get nutrients.
Right.
Because you're not getting micronutrition in fat.
Let me segue from that, because that's a really good point that we haven't discussed in this conversation personally, but it is a good point, is the nutrition aspect. This protocol, and I want to challenge anybody that's thinking about doing this program, the protocol where you're increasing your fat and you're decreasing your protein. I want to challenge you, if you are not a bodybuilder, do you need to be following that protocol? Okay? It is a specific sports performance protocol that the context
Strategy.
for someone who is just trying to improve their metabolic health, improve their body composition, and get healthy may not need to worry about. Okay? She has plenty of lean mass already. She's not trying to build lean mass to become functional and healthy.
As a matter of fact, it's a cutting protocol for that reason.
Right. It is specifically designed for people who have more than enough lean mass to support the protocol that could potentially decrease her lean mass. If you don't have enough lean mass now, then you don't want to go into a protocol that could potentially cause you to lose lean mass.
Yes.
It's counterproductive.
Yes.
So understanding that what she's doing, there's a lot of crossover of information that's applicable and can help you understand how things work. But that doesn't mean this specific protocol is for the average person.
Yeah, and let me just say, I will be sharing and documenting every step of this process. I will be keeping it 100% real with y'all in terms of how it impacts me, my body, my health, my mindset, all of those things. I will say I'm going into it very skeptically. This is not the way that I have ever done a cut before, because now I will say I did start out when I started bodybuilding. When I started my first cut for a show, I won't say I started bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is done in the off season. This is when you go on a build or a bulk. Even Robert Sykes, when he is building, he does not use this split
Right. It's just
of macros.
it's comp prep.
He only uses it for a cut, and it is for a specific purpose, and it is for his purposes. What he explains why you do this is to keep your energy high so that you can continue to produce an incredible output in the gym. So that's what it's about: performance, maintaining your performance, your cognitive health, your hormone health, all of those things while you're in a cut. And this is, once again, it's for people who already have built that muscle and that machinery.
You got a base already
In that building season. So when he's on a building season, his ratios are not that high fat and low protein. He brings his protein up, and it's more manageable. So, Meat Kaizen, that's Natalie, is asking, why are you cutting protein? So for me, the reason I have chosen to do this protocol this time is because I am in the early stages of perimenopause, and my testosterone has been low for the last couple of years since my last prep. My estrogen and progesterone just had a dip. And now, of course, if those of you are not familiar with perimenopause, your hormones are up, down, and all around during perimenopause.
It's 11-11.
It's not consistent. So I wouldn't, I'm not in postmenopause. It's not all my hormones are tanked, but I have had at least 1 month where, and probably a few cycles now, where all of my hormones dropped. So it's really kind of cool what I'm getting ready to do. I'm actually also starting a new, I don't know what you call it. It's an app and a tracker, a meter, if you will, to test your hormones. It's basically a fertility and perimenopause tracker.
No, we're not trying.
I know. For me, it's for perimenopause, not for fertility. But you can actually track your estrogen, progesterone, and LH, I believe it is, every day for 15 or 30 days out of the month. So half of the month or a whole month. I'm waiting for it to be delivered. I think it's getting delivered on Monday. So as I start this process, I'm also going to be testing my hormones, my ketones, my blood glucose. I'm looking at everything, and I'm planning to share all of that. So the main reason I'm attempting this is for hormonal health during a cut, to see if it makes a difference. So we will see. But I am concerned about losing lean mass during this process. I have the numbers from my past preps of higher protein, keeping my protein high the entire time and only cutting fat. I documented my entire last prep on YouTube in 2022. So the cool thing is that I can go back and reflect on where I was at that time of the cut, what my body composition was, what my mindset was, my energy levels, all those things. So I'll be able to track against all of that and compare to see what this does. But ultimately for me, I don't really want to go through menopause. I'm only 41 right now, so it's a little early.
You old.
It's early. I'm young for menopause. So I would like to be able to keep my hormone levels up. The main thing, there was a study of studies, a meta-analysis that came out, I think it was last year, and a lot of the gurus were sharing their thoughts on this, but that showed high protein, low carb, potentially lowering testosterone. And so the one thing I haven't tried, because I tried bringing the carbs up, I tried bringing carbs and fats up, I tried bringing fats up in the context of high protein, and none of that worked for me to bring up my testosterone. So what I suspect from that study that came out was that it was in the context of not being in nutritional ketosis, because a lot of the studies in the meta-analysis were not ketogenic. They were lower carb, but not ketogenic levels, and in the context of high protein, where the fats were not significantly high. So I'm curious to see if I make sure I'm in nutritional ketosis, which I haven't worried about testing my ketones in years, if this makes a difference and helps my testosterone come up.
Or even just being in it more often.
Right.
Because you're ketogenic now, you're just not in, you're not in ketosis all the time.
Right, and I haven't,
because,
and I don't know if I am, because I've never done any testing during.
Right, but because of the lean mass you have, because of your activity level, because you've been adapted for so long, it's likely that you are not in ketosis all the time.
And what I think, especially I started bringing carbs in intermittently here and there.
That's a whole other issue.
I switched from trying consistently higher carbs to carnivore with carbs every once in a while. I think I was probably in and out,
which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but maybe leaning towards being in ketosis more often than you've been could be beneficial. So I want to make that clear, because what she's not saying is that she's going to try to be in ketosis 24 hours a day. That's not what she's saying. She's saying just increasing the overall amount of time that she's in ketosis.
Yeah.
Because right now I think you're not in ketosis hardly ever.
Right.
And getting that up, I can totally see that being a difference.
Also, for context, I was eating very high protein. I mean, I was eating 1.25 times my total body weight in protein. So I was definitely on the highest of the ranges for what most people would do for their body composition. I suspect, what I think at the end of this process is that I'm going to find a new happy place of eating about 1 gram per pound of my ideal body weight, which would be a good 40 grams less per day than what I was doing before.
Yeah.
So, and then my goal is to live there at my ideal body weight. I've been allowing my body weight to come up higher than that, to be kind of at the higher level of maintenance during my off season. And it feels fine. I feel comfortable here, but I think I would feel more optimal, about 10 pounds from stage, and about also 5 to 10 pounds from stage and 5 to 10 pounds from highest maintenance. Maybe 10 pounds from highest maintenance.
So before we've been,
we just went on a total
let's talk about, the idea of making these changes and rethinking how we're doing all this stuff has basically kind of brought us to, we're like, hey, let's talk to everybody about the intent of what we're doing, being great. We have these intentions, but none of the intentions that we have are going to work if we don't make a plan for how we're going to do it. And going back to what I said before, the first part of that step of developing a plan is being curious about what you can try. What am I going to experiment with? So I think the first part of the plan is acknowledging you don't really know what exactly you need to do. Let's see if this works, right? But at least having something that you're going to say, here's the first thing I'm going to try, and then try that. And then kind of go for what are you doing? Be willing to fail. Be willing to say, nope, that didn't work. Nope, I just paid. Here's my thing. I'm worried. I'm a little worried, right? We're going to go buy these steaks and all these different meats, and we're going to cook it. I'm like, this is horrible. I don't want to eat it. And I'm going to have to make myself eat it because I paid for it. But I'm going to know that's not a steak I'm going to buy again. Right? Yep. So understand there's that process.
That's a really good point, is the trial and error, because I think a lot of the time you just want to be perfect at it immediately. And then when you're not, it's like, I failed. I might as well not try. And it's the whole all or nothing thinking. That is gonna create failure every time because you're gonna feel defeated. So you have to go into it recognizing I'm doing something new for me. I'm not gonna be perfect at it. There's gonna be some trial and error. And when I like to say you don't fail, there's no failure until you're dead, because there's always an opportunity to try again. So you don't want to mark yourself a failure on your first day of attempting something if you're not 100% perfect on it, right? Like, you're probably not going to be perfect on it ever. So it's just about, all right, let's take this first step. Today is my first day doing this high fat approach. I have mapped out my day in my nutrition tracker, my preferred nutrition tracker, Chronometer. I'm like, all right, I started plugging things in. Okay, that's not going to work. What if I adjust the amounts of that and I move this here, and, tinkering with it. It's macro Tetris.
Macro Tetris,
If I put this in and I take this food out.
I'm trying to think how to make this word up. Trying to make up a word. So it's macroodle. Instead of wordle, it's macwordle. Macro, Like, you're playing a game with trying to make your macros work. And figuring out, okay, well, that food at this amount is what I normally do. Look at the entry. Well, that's this much protein, this much fat. I don't need that much fat, so maybe there's a different kind of meat I can use instead. Play around with it.
Okay,
right?
Here's a big thing, because I think I'm going to love this process because I actually love high fat meats. It's the cutting it, the protein low that's going to be tricky. But so usually when I'm in a cut, I find ways to still enjoy the fattier cuts of meat that I like in smaller amounts and pairing it with a leaner thing. So Wagyu, ground Wagyu, one of the fattiest meats you can get. I paired that usually on a cut with whitefish, because as much as I love whitefish, I don't want to eat it without some sort of fat on it. And when I mix it with the Wagyu, it is amazing, right? So now that I'm doing high fat, I'm not going to eat the whitefish at all. I'm just going to have the Wagyu.
Or get the salmon, or get the fatty fish.
I did. I got the fatty fish that I love. That is more difficult to fit into my macros when I'm cutting my fat. So you can say, what do I love that still fits this way of eating? But I had so many ladies who have come to me eating 16-ounce ribeyes, and they don't want to give up their ribeyes.
Right. So just eat 8 ounces. Just eat 8 ounces and get something else.
Add some shrimp. Add some lean steak to that. So creative. I like the way that you said get creative, because it doesn't feel as daunting as having to learn and educate yourself on a whole new way of doing things. It's just being curious.
And that's the biggest roadblock that I think a lot of people have, is they're looking at trying to change all these things about how they eat, and they're not aware of the fact that they're still looking at their food the same way. You can't, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm trying to think of an analogy that works. It's like you just can't do it the same way. You've got to acknowledge and realize that if you're going to make these things work, you have to do things differently. So if you're going into it saying, I don't know what to do, that's because you're only focusing on what you're currently doing.
The way you have done it before.
You're focused on, this is what I'm doing now. I don't know how. Okay, that's great. You did that now. How could you change that? What other things are out there? And that's where
You just reminded me of one of the mantras I like to tell my ladies to think about. Instead of, when we start working with somebody new, a lot of the time, what do we hear? I can't do XYZ.
I literally was going to go there.
Because, we make them say the because they're not finishing that sentence. Usually it's like, oh, I can't do blah, blah, blah. I can't eat this meal anymore, or whatever it might be. Okay, why? Because XYZ, right? So their brain is naturally going to, I can't. Flip that to, how can I?
Yes.
The way that you solve problems is asking your brain to answer a question. Whenever your brain is giving you a statement, that's a dead end. So when you're saying a statement, flip it to a question. Make your brain think. Make your brain do what it's here to do. It's here to think, solve problems, troubleshoot. How can I make this work?
Right.
It's not that I can't, it's how can I? And you will have so much more success if you are still eating foods you enjoy, rather than saying, I can't have, poor me, I can't have my ribeye anymore. I can't have this XYZ food that I love anymore. This sucks.
You're
Then what's going to
focusing-
happen? A few days or a few weeks in, you hate the diet, you resent the diet, and now you're rebelling by eating garbage foods, whatever else.
Or just screwing it all together and just doing what you were doing before.
Yep.
I love that, turning it into a question. How do I solve this problem? Right? Yeah, that's fantastic, because that's really what it's all about, right? You're trying to figure out, okay, I have a new puzzle that's been placed in front of me. There's an analogy.
Ah, there you go.
You have a new, so you've been working with this puzzle for the past year, 2 years, 3 years, and now you're saying, I want to work on a new puzzle. So you go to the table with this new puzzle and you bring all the pieces of the old puzzle over.
The old pieces
aren't going to fit in the new puzzle. You got new pieces, you got to figure out how to put that puzzle together. Right? That's where we're at. I like that. That's good. So that's the secret, guys. You have to be curious. Your plan has to be based on a willingness to experiment and try new things. And you have to acknowledge that what you've been doing isn't what you need to be doing.
Ooh, and what we were going to call this
was
intentions versus action plans.
Yeah.
When you're making a plan, it needs to be a plan of action. What are the actions I'm going to take?
Right.
Something I mentioned in my group this week was any habit you're trying to change, you have to ask yourself, when am I going to do it? Where am I going to do it?
Yep.
How am I going to do it?
Yep.
So when is this going to happen? I'm going grocery shopping on X day, right? Where am I going to go shopping, right? Put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Make that plan. How am I going to execute it? Okay, what foods do I need? Make your food list, right? All the steps, you've got to lay it out as if you were making a how-to manual for yourself.
Yeah.
So you can go and say, okay, what were the exact steps I said I was going to take? Because otherwise, your brain's not just going to come up with it on its own when you've never done it before.
It's not.
So,
it's not.
Change
you gotta
your.
Walk through it.
Ooh,
you got to walk through it.
You're going to like this. Change your default settings.
Ooh, yes. I like that. I do like that.
Factory default.
You got to change your
it's
defaults.
set to a certain thing. You've got to shift that to a new thing. And then eventually that new thing becomes the autopilot, right? That's why these changes for us are difficult, because
we've been on autopilot. We're readjusting
the way that we always did them.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. I wouldn't say it's been difficult, because there's a mindset behind difficult versus it's a change.
Now you're talking.
It's a change. It's been a change. We were aware that we've got to do things differently, and we're figuring out what's going to work for us. I don't think it's been difficult. I think it's been enjoyable to kind of go, ooh, I get to play around with what's different.
Okay.
With different things and figure out what's going to work.
So it's all in how you
frame it.
Present it. Yes. Yes. So you've got to catch those thoughts too. This is so hard. I like to say that it gets to be as difficult or as easy as you want to make it.
Yes.
You're choosing to make it difficult. So how can you choose to make it easy? Are you looking for the question?
She said, what air fryer do you use?
Okay, we talked
Chrissy,
about
did you get that? Yeah, did you send another question, Chrissy? Sorry. Because we answered the question. We got the Ninja oven air fryer. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no worries. I was wondering what the other question was too.
I don't know if there was another one or not.
Anybody else have any questions on this topic or anything related?
Did you want to finish you make it as hard as you want it?
That's what it was. You choose, right?
Yeah, you choose how hard it is. I sent a question in the box.
Is that what this little notification is?
Hold on. Oh, okay.
Cool. I never even knew that was a thing.
Nope, me neither.
How to address low blood sugar when trying to be in a calorie deficit for fat loss. So deficits have nothing to do with blood sugar.
Yeah, and what do you mean by low, and why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, that's yeah. Give us more context on this, because blood sugar is going to be much more determined by the foods that you're choosing to eat and the quantities of them, and the combinations. We talked about that this morning. We were chit-chatting about.
Yeah, we got a whole nother
blood
talk
sugar
that we're thinking of. Oh, the masterclass.
You can be in a deficit without that being an issue. You could be a surplus without that being an issue. So it doesn't really have anything to do with calories.
So if you have other, you can ask that question again. I think we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. Sugar crash.
And carnivore. So if you are having sugar crashes, it's because you had a sugar spike.
Yeah,
so,
crashes don't happen without the rise first.
Yeah, it would go up and then come back down.
So something you're eating, if you're sure that it's a sugar crash, or I don't know if you have a CGM or if you're tracking your blood glucose, but if you're having something that's spiking it, and then you're coming down afterwards, then it's something you're eating is doing that.
I would try to identify what's
I can't
causing
imagine
the spike.
if you are 100% carnivore, you're not eating anything else, and I'm not sure if that's a sugar crash. It might be something else.
Unless you're talking about just in general having low blood sugar on carnivore, which shouldn't be a problem unless you're significantly low, like hypoglycemic low, and that might be a medical thing you need to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then Pilar's asking about.
Can't find the video where you discuss your new protocol. Is it in the live section of YouTube? No, I haven't done an in-depth video yet. I'll be doing that on YouTube each week of this process. All I've done so far is my initial post that was just a reel, and it was an announcement, and I put it in the caption of just kind of what I'm about to do. But I haven't done any of the detailed stuff yet. But I will be doing it on YouTube, and then I'll be sharing either clips of it or I just said yesterday, so you know what, I'm going to make this public and just, you got to tell other people what your intentions are to hold you accountable. I'm going to do a 30-day video a day for the first 30 days of this process. And then I might continue it from there once I get in the habit of doing that. But I plan to do that.
YouTube or Instagram?
Everywhere. I plan to do like a story and then probably make it a post on Instagram and a short on, or however that works on YouTube, maybe a longer video. And then each week I'll be doing a more in-depth, looking at my data, looking at the mindset, the training, the cardio, literally everything, just like I did last prep on YouTube. So.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. We were kind of all over, but the idea just being, don't be afraid to experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. Be curious. Make sure you have a plan for how you're going to go about this change, and then just stick with it.
Which we could do a whole other talk on how to stick with it.
How to stick with it. Cool.
All right, y'all.
See you guys next week.
Have a great week.